Hello, everybody. I hope you all are having a good day. A lot of people may have seen my videos and probably become weary of how many times I've been like giving certain names and phrases and why I do that over and over again. And it's just simply because I believe I'm going to use a cultural biblical phrase. I believe it's good to give milk to spiritual children before giving meat. And when I say that, I don't think I'm better than any of you or think that I'm any wiser than any of you. Um, and if I do, we all possess that. It's called the ego. It exists for a reason: self sufficiency and survival. Anyways, the point is, now I want to get a little deeper into what I'm trying to explain and why a lot of times when I say I am or give certain phrases, it may seem like I'm being egotistical and solely talking about myself. But when one begins to awaken, and this isn't one of those like woke shits, man. I'm just when one becomes more aware of what I'm doing or saying, then one begins to unlock the keys to do greater things around oneself. Okay, so I'll give you a quick example of what I mean. Um, Oftentimes in the past, people may have heard me say when reading the Bible and or certain scriptures, instead of saying God, to conjugate in first person as if God was reading as the breath of life within, and God is using God's word to strengthen God at different points of time. And why so many people say they are who they are, but even still they're angels of the Lord, angels of who I am. So even right there, an angel of who I am. Okay. Follow along. God, okay. I'm I'm saying God so that people understand what I mean. But when I say God, I want you to follow along and understand what I am truly doing is invoking the power of a spirit. The reason why people irritate me when they argue about the Holy Trinity, and I'm just giving my heart, I'm giving what I understand, is because I'm going to say this two different ways. God is spirit. I am spirit. So when people go, you have the God and then the spirit of God, there has been a major translation error, but people make mistakes. And this is why I need people to understand the phrases that are on the top of my list are not causing harm, the all of the law, loving who I am with all my heart and others the same, and mercy and forgiveness. When I say mercy and forgiveness, I'm not talking about an eon past to continually do dirty fucking evil and think that I'm going to be accepted into a magical place because I'm forgiven for my misdeeds. All actions have consequences. Even if it doesn't hurt me now, it could hurt me later, hundreds of years from now, if that makes sense. And the reason why that may be confusing is because some people hear that and are so bound physically, they think I'm talking about this flesh hundreds of years from now, when I'm talking from the perspective of my descendant and future descendants. But I'm speaking through the spirits because I am spirits and truth. So now I will say, I am spirit. God is spirit. And so this is why I tell people why adding 616 laws, a whole bunch of laws from the very beginning called the Noahides, a whole bunch of vague, confusing, not asserting, we're going to get crucified, but it's going to be the ultimate follow us because we're the authorities, confusion ass shit. It's because, listen what I'm about to say, I am lights. My spirit is lights. There are 10 basic laws that keep me in check. But then from who I am, I can build a home or a fortress or whatever for me. So let me get back on track. Back on track. The reason why I'm saying I am all the time and adding phrases to these things, positive reinforcing phrases, while continually say, please don't cause harm, is because I am trying to reprogram people. As a metaphor, I am like a human programmer. I am like a diagnostics system. I am like antivirus software. Because if you read my video descriptions and you get to a certain line, put no gods before who I am, something may happen. And as you continue to read, other things may happen. I am not a magician. I'm not talking about magic, though the feeling may be magical. Since childhood, before you were, there's an episode of South Park where Kyle keeps signing up for user agreements. That is a good, without reading them, that is a good way to describe what I'm about to talk about through childhood to adulthood, and how that metaphor of his mouth being attached to somebody's behind and then somebody's mouth being attached to his behind. I know this may sound really silly. It's a cartoon. Essentially, what I'm saying is, from childhood, because of disciplinary reasons and or societal reasons, I am eating a bunch of food unaware of the king's meat. What happens is I am then raised a certain type of way by other people who are also done like this. When this happens, one creates a beehive mentality where you create a queen, and the only thing that matters is the queen. The reason why I'm using a queen as this metaphor is because of the old ancient metaphor of daughters of men. Women and daughters of men is representative to me of flesh, and men at certain spots represents spirits. And so if the spirits of great men were enticing flesh, as in, now, okay, this is just a metaphor. I'm going to describe myself as a daughter of man. I am a flesh meat, right? I come from man, right? So then I could think of that in two different ways. I could be saying I am a human, or I could be saying I was learning, and as I was learning, I picked up on one of these other men's spirit, and it enticed me, and I became wed to it. The reason why it's a metaphor for me being a woman or daughter of men is because instead of me growing to be a man and having my own spirit, I then now am wed to another man's spirit. And when our spirits are bound and combined, there is an unspoken wedding, and then one begins to follow after that man and have children, spiritual children with that man, by creating teachings. A man's flesh has lust for something. He learns from another man's spirit. They get it together. Now the man that's living creates or births something new with that original man's spirit. So I'll give you an example. I'm living my life and I start talking about Adam, Cain, all these other men, dead men that I know nothing about but are in a book, so they exist. Now, with my flesh blood, just like Eve, when she said, the Lord gave me a child, with every character I create and kingdom I create and teaching I create, I am birthing new concepts. But if I were a man that were learning on my own after I become a certain, think of it as an EV evolution. You either evolve after your childhood to become a man's spirit, or likened to a woman's spirit. Okay, look at Christ. Am I lying? They're all married to a Nephilim. Christ is likened to a Nephilim because he is a major character on the earth. His spirit lives on, and then people are becoming wed to it. That's a great metaphor talking about the beginning. And so I'm going to say something, dude, and this is a fucking metaphor. The only validity to what I'm saying with this subjective comments is what's coming from my heart. You want to make it objective like I have, okay. But even in making it objective, I know the difference between symbols and calling actual characters other characters for no reason. Okay. I would liken John the Baptist, or I would liken Jesus to Mother Mary. Because what you have is a man that's undefiled by any other god, but instead of going and doing his own thing, he laid his life down for the spirit of a god, Yahweh or something like that. Whatever. The spirit of God. That's what's written. Book report mode. So then, how can I? John now gives birth to the conceptual idea of Jesus. So, I don't like doing this. I don't, because what I'm doing is advanced physics in terms of spirituality. And some people, this is why I don't like going into the meat yet. A good idea when people are reading the Bible, what I tell them is what you should do is when reading the Bible, you should, instead of saying God and Jesus and different names like that, one should now from the beginning say, like, in the beginning, who I am, that which I am, I'm the one who created the heavens and earth. Now let's look at that metaphorically from a scientific perspective. My parents' germ cells come together, which I have no control over. So then it happens. So now I am, right after my meiosis. And then I do something called mitosis because of my instincts and what the spirit of who I am is sending throughout the rest of my genetic code and cells, cellular network. Now I'm creating the consciousness in the brain, everything here, the virtual, the software, the spirit, but also there is a physical being manifested as well. And so I can honestly, I've told y'all before, get down with this goes back to what I was saying when y'all created God and then the spirit of God. It's the same thing. I am spirit. So when you say the spirit of God, you're just saying God. Okay. So then I understand the idea of a son. Instead of calling John the Baptist or Yehohanan ben Hagios, instead of calling him Mother Mary or the daughter, what I could do is I could liken this metaphor like this. I could say, okay, I just can mix two different things. I could say, you could have John's dad, his spirit. That's going to be too advanced and too, maybe we should wait for that. But anybody who can understand what I'm about to say right now, you have Elizabeth, John the Baptist's mother. We'll say that's his flesh. The flesh is birthed from the mother. And then all the teachings and genetic code and most of the genetic code and stuff come from the father, the head of the household, if you will. Even if a father isn't in a child's life, they still have the father's instincts, so to speak, and what the father passed on. And so a lot of a person's personality is nurture. I promise you it is. But nature also, like my cats, they're going to dig in the in the litter boxes and do certain things. Dogs can swim. That's just nature. Some things we have when we come here. And so I will say then they birthed John the Baptist. So that's a clever way of saying between John's flesh and consciousness or most higher being, then you have the whole being, John. So I'll give you an example. Me up here, the brain or the spirit or the whatever you want to call it. Then you have the flesh attached to all that, being controlled by all that. Then you have me, the total being. So I could say like my flesh, Mother Mary, the spirit of God or whatever, righteousness. And then the being, the son. And I told y'all I'm not all gender, so the women the same. You all will be the queen of queens. You all will be the daughters, and then the Most High is directing the daughter until she becomes a woman. And then you have a goddess or God. So when people ask me, is Jesus Yahweh? I want y'all to understand something. John the Baptist out of his own mouth, or Jesus went in the book of John the Baptist and also was told, don't cling to me, cling to the Father. I can do nothing without the Father. Blah, 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 blah. They made it a whole bunch of, they translated these words. And so over time, people make mistakes, but sometimes these mistakes attach to people like bear traps. And that's why I suggest to people like, let's say I'm reading the Bible. In the beginning, who I am created the heavens and earth, the heart and the flesh, whatever. It's your book. It's your mind. It's your mental psyche. Do what I need to do to survive. Now, see how that works? Do what I need to do to survive without causing harm. And when I speak like this, people need not confuse my words because I'm not violent when I don't need to be. Do not play with my words. And so, you know, I tell people all the time, once you get to Jesus and you start to see, instead of now you got God, you start to say, I am, and then who I, spirit of mine, word of mine, child of mine, people of mine, covenant of mine, word of mine, and see how quick y'all are to fling them curses, because then what if they happen to your peoples, right? People need to become more aware and see what they're reading and see what they're agreeing to with these people and these books and stuff. So I'm just trying to make people more aware. I give people these scrolls that I wrote and my video descriptions. And a lot of times what I tell people is, you know, just be careful with what I'm doing. Be aware, be conscious of my decisions. And that's all I really ask. You can be as funny, silly, you know, work hard and do what you got to do. And when it's time to be serious, be serious. But at the same time, I'm talking about technical things and like doctors, nurses, lawyers, train conductors, bus drivers. You know what I'm saying? Be serious when you need to be. But even when being serious, I can do what I need to you know what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, I'm driving a bus and I need to pay attention, but I don't have to be a hard ass, beat ass, dick ass, puss ass asshole. You know what I mean? But if I'm having one of those days, I don't have to be yes, massa. It's all about a balance. And that's why I don't rebuke the darkness or the dark side. And I hope y'all understand when I say that. Because as I've said before, if you treat people like lambs, knowing they demons and are evil, then you're perpetuating that same system you're calling evil. I am perpetuating that system I'm calling evil when I adhere to stupidity and destruction. And I told a friend earlier that imagine the world, okay, so already from a scientific perspective or whatever perspective, everything is perceived from who I am. Without you, without who I am, nothing exists. Not the stars in the sky, not the sun, not the planet. None of those things exist without who I am to perceive those things, if that makes sense to who I am. And so as I begin to blossom and understand these things more, this is also a strengthening of teaching people to be more aware and careful of my surroundings. Because I treat things as if, imagine this as a metaphor. And I hear people saying it all the time, manifestation. So imagine everything that's outside, I'm interacting with external stimuli. And it gives me food for my senses that then convert those things to electric signals that then go to the brain and perceive those things. So how you see me is not how other things see me. How you perceive me is not how other things perceive me. And there are beings that could be all around us and living in its own way and or interacting in its own way, and we cannot even perceive them because the visible light spectrum is only this big and we can only hear certain frequencies. You know what I mean? And so this isn't one of those ghost, angel, spirit, demon. What I'm saying is it's best to continually learn and be humble while doing so. And be a little bit more lighthearted while taking that which needs to be taken seriously. Like, I don't think it's cool to be still spending trillions and billions on trying to pay off countries when you could have been pay reparations and people would have been cool. Y'all could have been assimilated and made everything cool. But it's the separation and the hatred and the dividing and the taking. Imagine we're like this, where everything was not open and free so much, but everything was more assimilated and we all shared our resources and we built together. Versus now, we're all separated. We're all building for defenses, spending for defenses. We're all hoarding food for soldiers and other events that shouldn't be happening. And maybe experiencing plague and famine because we're not worried about the proper technology or scientific innovations. Then you would have to go to the war to get the other resources because y'all are enemies now and y'all aren't agreeing to each other, blah, blah, poop, capitalism bullshit. So then now you're spending money for wars and now this other shit's happening now. Instead of increasing innovation and feeding those people and helping those people that could have been geniuses, now they're dead or plagued or famined or died in war. Now you have a loss of more statistical anomalies and it's happening everywhere because they're fighting, right? It doesn't make sense to prosper using destruction, hatred, and war. It doesn't add up. I'm writing an equation. Now minus 4. Now I'm trying to build again and add the equation again. Now it's minus for war. What are y'all fucking doing? With every word of destruction and pain and whatever we spread, it spreads like a shockwave and it spreads throughout the atmosphere. One person said, 2 people said, now 3 people spreading darkness and just Y'all are trying to give Don Lemon the Klan terrorist act for being a journalist on people protesting at a church. So if churches don't pay taxes, how they got all these fucking government officials protecting them? That doesn't make fucking sense. It's because they're the richest people's charities. I told y'all this. And y'all are fucking with these rich people charities and they don't like it too much. Okay, y'all are steadily moving a couple of things. I see Trump is moving out of Minnesota now. But this shit all could have been avoided. And we could all stand as one and stop this shit. The people that want to assimilate are greater than these fucking Nazis. Figure it out. So back to the lesson at hand. I'm sorry. And as people begin to learn and grow and understand, not the great I am, not the I am, conjugate properly, speak proper English. That which I am, the spirit of mine, that who I'm telling you all, because the more we separate, that's that separation from God, separation from who I am. And it's good to have lessons and teachings and learn from other people, but idolizing, making gods, lores, fantasies, that's what they need to remain. Because the more we eat this shit up, look at what this shit has done to the planet so far. And it continues to spread like a virus. You don't get rid of a virus by punching a hole in the side of the fucking computer and ripping hardware out. You have to use antivirus software. You atheists do a good job, but then you turn into fucking battle hordes. And when people are deconstructing, you're making them think evil, 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 ding, ding, ding. And then they go right back to that shit and eat that regurgitated bullshit until they're comfortable to come out again, hoping the world will be soft somewhere. So compassion and kindness is what wins. You're Christian and compassionate, people flock to it. You're a Muslim and compassionate and kind, people flock to it. You're a Jewish person and compassionate and kind. When I say Jewish, I'm not talking about ethnic. Understand, anytime I'm talking about Jewish, I'm talking about Jew fucking deism or crooked Zionism. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm not talking about, y'all know what I'm doing. I'm coming after all this crooked buffoonery. The Talmud and the Gemara and all this shit. Ugh. Ugh. All these fucking Imnas, and they writing all these scrolls and shit. What are they called? The fucking... It just reminds me of the Talmud. All these laws, or the Kabbalah, all these laws outside of the book that these rabbis and imaams and whatever the hell they're called are writing in this shit. And I keep telling you all these civilizations became great because they were scientists and mathematicians and geniuses. Not because of their religious bullshit. Religion is a great coping mechanism, and it's not even coping, because if you need it, like my heart, lungs, and everything else, then it becomes a part of the body. And so every man's religion is as important as his lungs and his heart and his spirituality. But when that shit becomes corrupt, just like we go do surgeries, sometimes it takes somebody deeper to be able to understand. I don't like using certain metaphors. Please do not misuse my words. And do spiritual surgery. That has nothing to do with anything physical. And if it does, it's because you're helping and giving metaphors and teaching, not taking scalpels and other physical tools to people's bodies. And so a lot of those books have what could be philosophically used as very deep, special metaphors. But the book as a whole, and following those laws blindly, end up blinding the user, and then viruses are created. So we can call them spirits. We can call them programs. I don't care. We can call it devils, demons, if you will. But there's a reason why it says, do not eat of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. It doesn't say don't have a conceptual understanding of right and wrong. It says don't eat of the fruits of knowledge of good and evil. Because you're then going into a fractal or paradox that then takes utter personal fantasy and personal fantasy, because it's one's own beliefs. And if that's for oneself on the inside to help one grow, okay. And then you have children, your children are going to grow out of your house one day, and it can either be peacefully or violent. I'm telling you all how planet Earth works. And so A lot of you people that are denying and rejecting your children because they're coming out as homosexual. A lot of you people are denying your children because they're not marrying the right race or religion, all that other shit. You are missing out on a lifetime of beauty, and you're destroying the next generation. I don't give a fuck what religion or culture you are. Now, if you know something is dangerous, or if you're having PTSD because how racism in the past, okay, that's one thing. But then that's not so much saying that people are still evil, while they are and can be, and being self-aware about people's actions is a good idea. You don't see me marching out here in the streets, because when my ancestors marched, they were shooting people in the head, spraying them with hoses, water fucking hoses. Y'all talking about rubber bullets, water fucking hoses used to put out industrial fires, and fucking canines. They love the Germans. Operation Paperclip. Maybe that's why me and my ancestors love cats so much. See, that was just some fun. I will never just openly ridicule Germans, American Europeans, because they're actually, calling them Caucasian is, I think, wrong. That's actually like Sephardic, Syrian, Russian. I don't know if Polish is Eurasian or European. So I don't, whatever. More blocks and stones to hold for no reason. My way is light. I am the light. I am who I am. Whatever God y'all keep building in the sky, these big stars and stuff, they're going to fall. Okay, I'm just telling y'all, when new generations come, they don't feel the same way, which leads to uncivil rest, civil wars, and betrayal and blasphemy, which are things that are conjured in the mind and continually be fantasy, because those things are subjective to each user. And so, it's been a while since I started this video. Photograph. A lot of people don't like Nickelback. They're more into 50 Cent. I need to knock it off. So, I like 50 Cent. Go shawty. It's your birthday. That man's a miracle in himself, is he not? My goodness. 9 times. Whew. I am who I am, and I do what I will. Do I not? Is life not? I told y'all, nothing's truly random, but I heard some police officers, these are real stories, were shot in the pinky and died because they hit a certain nerve or something and they bled to death or something. It's just like, even the dice not random. Your fixture of how you throw those dice has a lot to do with positioning, physics, gravity, and kinetic, I believe, energy, and momentum, which is velocity. A lot of factors. Just like how people count cars, there could be a person that literally map and calculate based on its surroundings a perfect seminar. I mean, it's possible. Have you seen some of these? There's a dude that defeated Super Mario 64 70 stars without pressing the A button. And he did it in like 81 hours. Told y'all, greater things we all do. All of us have a special gift at something. You don't have to come out and tell podcasters you're a healer. They're honestly mocking you people. And the ones that aren't mocking you are like either confused or using you for money. And the ones that are confused concern me the most, because that, not because they're the violent ones, they're the ones that actually believe and are terrified. What I'm saying is they're the ones that self-harm the most. And just because you don't, that doesn't mean you don't self-harm. I'm talking psychologically. A lot of us have been trained to self-harm and have been trained to keep curses in a data cache instead of clearing the cookies and clearing out the old data. And so, you know, the history. She can't get enough. At the end of the work night, I was watching A Night at the Roxbury. I love that song. I hope I don't get sued. Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. Oh. I honestly think it's a funny movie. And as I told y'all, Will Ferrell's one of my favorite actors, comedians, actors. But that song is fucking goated. There's a few songs in the middle. Love them. Great, good old 80s, 90s music. You know what I mean? And one more thing. Bananarama. Cruel Summer. Yeah, there's a couple people. I think his name is George Michaels. I thought that was a black man. That man who sang, I keep forgetting we're not, or his name is Michael McDowell, something like that. He's saying, I keep forgetting we're not in love anymore. And there's another guy too, he sings a song. Everybody swore he was white. I mean, black. That dude was white. I was like, okay, we all got it. You know what I'm saying? We just got to believe in it. Because when those, I don't like saying voices, because then people go to the whole delusion skits, and those are useful for psychology for, I guess, we all have our own beliefs. And so, but what I'm saying is we all calculate within the mind. And sometimes different seeds can get in data catches and they can grow different trees, which can be harmful and spread vines within the network. So it's been a while, man. I've talked about enough. Get to know who I am. Remember when I say that, what I'm talking about, and spread more joy, love, and peace. Because the reason I brought up the whole like stimuli, inner and outer, is because we make our worlds at every point. I feel this cat on my shoulder because first the external stimuli interacts with me. My nerves connected to my endocrine system, the smell of her fur, the feeling of it, her purring, her vibrating, also something that I'm feeling. And then it is calculated into the mind. I perceive it, and then it is continually viewed or played, because it would look like I'm staring at you and you are listening to me. But what is actually happening is the vibrations that you are seeing and the photons that you are perceiving, the vibrations you are feeling and hearing, and the photons you are receiving, which are also vibrations, then are converted. Like when you take, like when you have 3 red, yellow, white cords for Nintendo 64, and you only have a TV with the HDMI, and then you stick it into a converter, and then it converts into the HDMI port that you plug into the TV. That's kind of like how even I believe we see upside down. But then when the brain, it's inverted. When the brain receives the data, it comes back forward within the mind. So I'm not seeing out here from this perspective. The data all comes in, comes to the data center, and is converted. And this is where I'm seeing. This is where everything I'm doing, I'm perceiving. But the outer shell, the hardware, makes it seem like something it isn't. I actually also have a belief, this is just an ideology, that humans in the future, there's a character on Ninja Turtles, I believe his name is the Crane, where he's constantly punching himself, the brain, to get back into the huge buff human. I believe humans have the capability of doing that because everything on the outside is essentially hardware. Like, I have this body to keep this alive and moving. I am mobile in a way that I normally wouldn't be. It's like a shell. And so the brain sends signals, eats, feed me nutrients, nose, breathe, mouth, breathe, fuse that oxygen where it can be sent to the brain and be used as energy to go into the electron transport chain. And then when those O2s rip apart, the electrons are used for something. And so the protons are also used for something. That's what's called the electron transport train. And then once it gets into the mitochondria, it converts into APT and how we convert energy. And so, I'm sorry, that's why I don't like getting scientific, biblical. The Lord God rains down manna upon who I am, and then the soldier of mine does mine will. I am not violent, and everything I am can be seen on the camera still. People may think secret conversations or blah, blah, blah in those hidden places, but what you see on the outside is what happens on these spaces. Certain things I do not agree with humanity on, and their laws and flaws. And so certain times I calculate in the dark without flawed. And so then I understand the meaning, but I don't mean to be demeaning. Not everything that's done in the dark by the dog is barked. And then the user can remain at rest, and I don't have to worry about getting certain things off my chest, because when I confess to who I am and become delivered and see, I can then show proper mercy and spread it throughout the seed. See y'all later, man. Or women, queens, kings. You don't got to be in the diaspora or FBA to be a king or queen. You are human. which is angel of mine. But to who I am, you are, I am the King of Kings or Queen of Queens, the Spirit of the living one.